Now, about the 30s poets, that is the Auden group. It must be remembered that the Auden group was not a group of poets who, sort of met in a room and stayed together like that. Actually, it's a kind of name which is stuck to the poets who were more or less almost quite same in their output of poetry when it came to evaluating them in terms of social concerns. That is, their poetry are not of the lovey-dovey romantic or ecclesiastic type. The trend was actually set by T.S. Eliot's Wasteland in 1922, and these people, that is the people whom we loosely term the Auden group or the 30s poets, their poetry was mostly about social anxieties, and there is always the foreboding of the thing that something even worse is going to happen. Well, first of all, the names, that is. Once again, I am taking help from the internet, and the names are something that you all know quite well. These are, although the group loosely described the many poets of the 30s, it did include Louis MacNeice, W.H. Auden, Wystan Hugh Auden, Cecil Day Lewis, Stephen Spender, and Christopher Isherwood. Now, there's also another term called the Max-Sponde. The Max-Sponde, the term, it also means this group, especially the Auden group, and it comes from something like the Mac from MacNeice, SP, SPO, it's from Spender, on, AUD, and Day is Day Lewis. So it's Max-Sponde, Mac-Sponde, Max. Well, once again, Mac is Louis MacNeice, SPO, that is Sponde, that is it's Auden and Spender, Spender and Auden somehow joined in a portmanteau kind of thing, and Day is Cecil Day Lewis. And there are certain things that you must remember like this, and it was something like this. These are the things that these are the quotations that are famous of these people, and well, it's good to know them somehow. They were heavily influenced by the social climate of 1930s. This is a very important kind of thing. That is, they were very much influenced. Their poetry was influenced by the social climate of the 1930s. The members were born shortly after the war. After the war means the First World War, addressing social, political, and economic concerns of the time. Auden himself, that is Wystan Hugh Auden, W.H. Auden, Auden himself described the 30s as the age of anxiety. Now, this is a very pertinent kind of thing. That is something you must remember. This quotation from Auden, that is, Auden describes the 1930s as the age of anxiety. It's quite sort of normal to be anxious in the 1930s because trouble was actually brewing. There were lots of troublesome incidents going on, and in England it was quite the powder keg, because in England society was somehow in a turmoil because communism and socialism were making inroads. There was also a parallel rise of fascism. Even in Britain, there was a British fascist party on that at that time, and which was somewhat decimated by the communists and other people in the 1940s. That is at the beginning of the Second World War. So fascism and socialism were at loggerheads with each other. They were conflicting, And Britain also had a source of anxiety from the rising nationalist, freedom, and anti-colonial movements in her colonies. One example, 1930 was in India, it was actually almost the decade of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, because a number of large Indian freedom movements under Mr. Gandhi saw the inception in the 30s decade. So that good old non-cooperation movement, etc. And the colonies were feeling the suffocation of colonial rule, and they were trying to assert themselves, assert their freedom. So there was a huge amount of anxiety. So the names, once again, it's Winston Hugh Auden, Stephen Spender, Louis MacNeice, Cecil Day Lewis, and Christopher Isherwood. Well, this much for the sort of the components of the Auden group, if humans can be called components, that is. And there are further things that we also need to discuss about them. For some further clarification, I am reading verbatim and trying to explain this complex poetic phenomenon from the article called Poems of the Week, the Max Pondes by John Stringer. John Stringer's article on the Auden group, which is available in the public domain in internet, that is. So what he says is quite interesting, that is about their growing up and their poetic, sort of poetic Bildungsroman, that is the evolution of their poetic art. Their careers immediately following their days at Oxford are interesting. MacNeice was a lecturer at the University of Birmingham. Spender spent several months in the period 1930-33 with Christopher Isherwood, 1904-1986, his time, that is, in Berlin. Day Lewis taught in schools in 1930 until 1935. Auden spent a year after graduating in 1928 with Isherwood, then spent 5 years teaching in schools in Scotland and England. Teaching was always Auden's bent, and T.S. Eliot wasn't happy about the influence he perceived it having on Auden's poetry. So T.S. Eliot somehow thought that Auden's poetry was more like a sermon or a lecture, that is some sort of an Jethumoni type of advice which is directed at the readers. Well, this much for this. During the period while they were at Oxford and in the years immediately following the Weimar Republic was gradually coming apart in Germany to be replaced by the Nazi party, that is the National Socialist Party of Adolf Hitler. Now, we all know what this actually led to. This led to the Second World War, the Holocaust, the Eastern Front, and finally the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all these events which has simply, sort of stood as a gateway between the modern and the postmodern world. Now, these are all right-wing movements. Right-wing means fascist. So the right-wing movements, while our poets, that is our group of poets, were, sort of coming into their poetic art, right-wing movements were coming into force all over the world. Against these right-wing movements, the only significant opposition was coming from the socialist parties, most importantly the communist parties based on the theories of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. So once again I'm repeating myself, that is, the world was in conflict. One side was held by the newly found faith of the right-wing political parties, the fascists, the black shirts, the Franco people in Spain, and the other side was populated by the leadership of Soviet Union with its Communist Party and international communist parties and intellectuals worldwide. So once again, this ideological conflict comes into play. Fascist and socialist, or in Germany as in National Socialist, Nazi versus the communists. Well, there are a lot of things which actually come into play when political ideologies conflict, because a poet is theoretically a free bird and he simply cannot put himself to a single entity. That is, he cannot, even though he tries to politically, he cannot be a total fascist or a total communist. If he is, then he is not a poet, because a poet is always free and his only religion and only politics is poetry. So there's a very important comment probably by Macnish in this regard. It runs something like this. Macnish, that is Louis Macnish: my sympathies are left, but not in my heart or my guts. My sympathies are left, but not in my heart or my guts. So the people like Macnish, given the kind of political polarization of the time, they were theoretically socialists or communists or Marxists, whatever the term may suit. But here he is writing, my sympathies are left, that is, his sympathies are left. He has a leftist sympathy when it comes to things political, but not in my heart or my guts. Simple. Is it simple? No, it's not simple, because how can I say like that? That is, my sympathies, say I am saying something like this: my sympathies are Chinese, but my guts and heart are Indian. So what exactly is the difference between sympathy, the heart and the guts? By the way, guts means the stomach, a gut feeling. It's a very common British phrase, gut feeling, G-U-T, gut. Gut feeling means a feeling that is something, a feeling that you have inside, that you know that this may happen. You have a 90% prediction that this might happen, though people say otherwise. That is a prediction, some kind of sixth sense, Shashto Indriyo, that is. So Macnish is saying that his political sympathies or sympathies are left, but leftism is not in his heart or guts. Which means very simple, that Macnish knows that though the people of his time and he himself, in order to combat fascism, is trying their level best to be Marxists or communists in politics, but there is the fault line of being a committed communist and a communist as an anti-fascist. Simple. Because Macnish is saying that though I am a communist or I am a Marxist, as you may label me, it must be remembered that my heart, that is my inner feelings, my gut feeling, is not communist or Marxist or socialist. Because any ideology, be it fascist or socialist, at its extreme points can be very, very repulsive to a poet, because a poet is all about freedom, imagination, which both ideologies actually attempt to shackle. Any kind of ideology, political ideology, is a kind of chain which binds the imagination or the fancy or the poetic genius. So his sympathies are left, since people are being oppressed by the non-left or the right-wingers, but in his heart he knows that pure leftism is not the solution. That is the kind of dichotomy, that is the kind of gut feeling, once again I'm using that thing, that is the kind of sixth sense that these people are trying to sort of preach, almost like a prediction that never give all your heart.